In today's video, I'm going to show you the exact strategy my team and I used to generate 1,857 B2B e-commerce leads, which led to $210,000 in initial sales and then $750,000 in revenue when we factor in the 12-month LTV. This was done at a total ad spend of $83,000, resulting in a 900% return on ad spend. Today I'll take you through the 5 simple strategies we used that generated this result. And if you're wondering how I got things like the 12-month LTV into Google Ads as a column, I'm going to show you how to do that too. You'll also discover the right way to track and think about your numbers to generate the best possible results. And you'll see the exact campaign structure and settings I used in Google Ads. Keep watching till the end because later I will tell you what I think about Performance Max campaigns for lead generation and whether you should be doing that as well or not. Now, the client I did this for was in the promotional products industry. Think about custom branded hats, pens, bags, that kind of thing, and you're thinking in the right direction. They are an e-commerce company, but as their focus is high-ticket B2B sales, the ads campaigns function more like a traditional lead generation campaign. Okay, so strategy number 1, the first part of this is to get your tracking in order, and really this is the foundation for everything that comes next. You have to do this first before you can get all the valuable data and insights that I'm going to show you later on that leads to the better campaign results in Google Ads. So what do I mean by get your tracking in order? Well, first up, I mean add UTM parameters to all your marketing campaigns. Add it to Google Ads because we're talking about Google Ads today, but also once this is done, you want to add this to any other marketing campaigns that you are running as well, so that you can collect data really, really well. And what do I mean by this? Well, here's an example URL. So let's say this is my store URL and I've got a landing page there. So that's my URL. And what you want to do is add the question mark and then UTM source and then whatever source the traffic is coming from, and UTM campaign equals whatever, and UTM medium equals whatever. Now you can actually do this in the campaign or account level settings in Google Ads. You can just set it up at the campaign or account level so that this stuff is automatically added to all your Google Ads traffic. And then what happens is your traffic comes to the site, they've got this appended to the URL, and you need to make sure that whatever form software you are using can actually handle this. Like the form software needs to be able to then grab the parameters out of the URL and store it, usually in a hidden field inside of the form. Now, most good form softwares just do this straight out of the box. We actually struggled when we first set this up because the client was using Power Forms, and we struggled with this for months on end, and then we ended up just having to move to Jotform. And once we moved to Jotform, it was all sorted. Jotform just handles this. I think most decent form builders softwares out there just handle this. Power just seemed to be an absolute nightmare. So if you're using Power, maybe move to Jotform or something else. Once we moved to Jotform, everything was fine. Jotform was just grabbing the parameters out of the URL for us. There's another step you need to take here though, which is going to require a techie person or a web developer create hidden fields in Jotform for UTM source, UTM campaign, UTM medium. So you create the hidden fields in your form software, and then the form software just knows to grab that information out of the URL. You also need to do is create JavaScript code to ensure the UTM parameters are passed. So normally speaking, this won't be an issue. The form will just grab the stuff out of the URL like this. But depending on how your site is set up, you might have scenarios where this stuff gets dropped out of the URL. For example, let's just look at a quick example. This is my website, bigflare.com. This is where my form is. And if I was driving traffic direct to this page and I was appending my UTM parameters, then I might have landed on this page with something like this. And then, so that might be in my URL because the traffic got driven by Google, and I'd have UTM source and UTM medium as well. That's all well and good. And then I would fill out the form. And if I just fill out the form directly, great, fine. It's going to grab the UTM parameters out of my URL. But let's say for a moment, I don't fill out the form directly. Let's say, I don't know, I click over here first. I go, oh, what are their case studies all about? Okay, cool, yep, case studies. Maybe I click a couple of places and then I come back to the form. If the user does this, you are going to lose the UTM parameters out of your URL and it's not going to track. So that is why you need this JavaScript code. What the JavaScript code does is it stores UTM data into local storage, and then that way if the user doesn't go straight to the form but they go to another page on your site and then come back to the form, the JavaScript code can then push the UTM data into the form when it's not present in the URL, when it's been stripped from the URL because they bounced around your site. If you've just got a single page site, if your form page is the only page on your site, you don't need this. If you've got a site like mine, if you've got a site like my client had where they could sort of pop around the site a little bit before coming back to fill in the form, then you need something like this. It does require a bit of coding knowledge. I don't have the coding knowledge, but our web developer does. So we sent this over to the web developer. He knew exactly what to do. I think any good web developer worth their salt is just going to know what to do with this. If you just explain to them this, we need a JavaScript code to ensure UTM parameters are passed, store it in local storage, put it back into the form when the person comes back to the form. So get your web dev to do this, and then that will just sort of tighten this up and make sure you don't lose any tracking anywhere. Once this is running, you should now be passing your UTM parameters along with the rest of the form data into your CRM or your order tracking system. You want to make sure these parameters just follow that lead as they progress through your system all the way to the end when they make the final sale, because then you can start doing some filters and figure out, okay, what are my numbers for Google search CPM specifically? And this is where the next step comes in. So once you've got all of this, then you can start getting a better handle on your numbers. So step number 2 here is to know your numbers. What numbers do you need to know? Well, you want to know your lead to sale conversion rate. So what percentage of leads actually turn into a new customer? Let's say you run the numbers and you figure out it's like 50%. So if it was 50%, that means 100 leads multiplied by 50% would result in 50 customers. You really need to know this number if you're going to get into the rest of the data that really allows you to run Google Ads and your other marketing campaigns super effectively. You also want to know the average order value on the first sale. So once they're a customer and they've bought something, what's the AOV typically on the first sale? And guesswork ain't good enough here, guys. So get the UTM tracking in place and then actually put together a bunch of data so you can calculate this stuff. You also want to calculate the lifetime value. You can use a date range that makes most sense for you and your business and how you want to run this thing. You can run it at the 3, 6, or 12 month mark, but you need some steer of the lifetime value so that you can pay attention to not just how much money do you make on the first sale, but then how much money do you make on the repeat purchases. If you've got a high repeat purchase rate, this is super powerful because it allows you to optimize for a more aggressive CPA, which allows you to get a lot more traffic in Google Ads, which is a big part of how we got this result for this client. What you want to then do, in order to get these numbers, it's a bit of number crunching, but what you want to do essentially is get a big export of all your previous data and then crunch the numbers essentially. Now, if you're a traditional e-commerce store and you're running on Shopify, you've got a bunch of tools and apps like Lifetime is a good one, and that will just automatically calculate things like your 3, 6, and 12 month LTV for you, and AOV will be really apparent because it's just really easy to read in Shopify. But if you're a B2B e-commerce company doing lead gen, these numbers are a bit harder to come by because there aren't really that many free apps that are going to connect to Shopify plus whatever CRM you're using to convert the leads, plus whatever order system you're using for order management. The way we conquered this challenge is to just do it manually. We did a big export of all the data. So here's the data that we exported. We exported average customer order lifespan, trailing 3-month net sales, trailing 6-month net sales by customer, trailing 12 months net sales by customer, order sum and total of client by quarter, and then sales order total counts by quarter for the most recent years. And with that, what we were able to do is essentially just use AI. So we dumped all of that into Claude AI. Claude AI is pretty good at doing numbers and calculations for you. And we dumped all the files in, and then we started chatting with Claude AI to pull out the 3, 6, and 12 month LTV. And we got it to show us all the workings that it did And then we checked all the workings, cross-referenced it with the original files. We verified that Claude AI's numbers were correct. And this was the first time we were using AI for this. So then we actually got a friend who's a mathematician to run the numbers manually, completely separately. And then we checked their numbers against the numbers that we got with Claude AI, and they matched. They matched pretty well. So from this point going forwards, I'm going to be a little bit more confident in using Claude AI to calculate this stuff and to really speed up the rate at which we can calculate these numbers. But yeah, do check these numbers when you use Claude AI. And in our case, it was as simple as dumping all our files, exporting all the customer data that we needed, dump it into Claude AI, chat with Claude AI, check its workings, and we got there. And then you can add these information points as custom columns in Google Ads. So let me show you how to do that. So what you want to do is create columns for first sale revenue, first sale return on ad spend, and then whatever time frame you're using for your LTV. You could use 3, 6, or 12, or all of the above. You want to calculate these ones in there as well. So these are calculated fields that are using the numbers that we calculated for things like AOV, 12-month AOV. And the way this is done is you go modify columns, custom columns, create a custom column. And let's say you want to create your first sale revenue. I'll just put a 1 there because I've already used that name. And then your first sale revenue would be your leads. So in this case, conversions. And then what you would do is multiply by whatever was your lead to sale conversion rate. When we ran the numbers for this client, we found that our lead to sale conversion rate was 35.5%. So 355. So customize this number based on what you figured out is your lead to sale conversion rate, and then conversions multiplied by lead to sale conversion rate will get you the number of sales. And then what you do is multiply by your AOV, your first sale AOV, which is another number you need to calculate based on your historic data. So you need a really good calculation here to get as close to the truth as possible. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but the more data you look at and the better you run your calculations, the more accurate it would be. So in this case, our client's AOV on the initial sale was $330. And then you save that, and then you have got your first sale revenue. So what you want to do is plug your numbers and get your sales, which is going to be your leads multiplied by your lead to sale conversion rate. And then your first sale revenue, which is going to be your sales multiplied by your first sale AOV. And then your first sale ROAS is another custom column, which is going to be first sale revenue divided by cost. And then 12-month LTV. Once again, this is a calculated field. I can show you how it's calculated in here. So it's sales multiplied by 1146.23, which is the number that we calculated based on the previous data, based on the lifetime data for the client. So we had a lot of data, so we're pretty confident that this is a good estimate. Sales multiplied by your 12-month LTV. Yeah, this is the 12-month LTV, and then this is the total 12-month revenue. So this is the AOV per customer. This is the number of sales here. So number of customers multiplied by the average 12-month revenue per customer gives us like the 12-month revenue estimate for the client. And we were actually conservative with this. We calculated the numbers as accurately as we could, and then we built in a bit of wiggle room as well. We actually just took it down by 25% just to make sure that we weren't overestimating in the wrong direction. We're pretty confident in numbers, but then we actually kind of discounted it a bit just to make sure the campaign's as efficient and profitable as possible. So this is how you can build these custom columns, get them in Google Ads, and then you'll have all this kind of data in here, which is really going to help inform your marketing and campaign decisions going forwards. Once this is all set up, you need to start looking beyond your CPA, because if you just look at the initial cost per lead in Google Ads, you're not going to be making as much money as you could. A lot of people in lead gen and B2B lead gen often come to me asking how on earth are my competitors spending so much? And when we look into it, we often find that what the competitors seem to be doing is they have a better grasp of their longer term numbers, and they're willing to sacrifice a little bit of profitability on the first sale in order to maximize total volume. And that's how the competitors get to like the top of the Google Ads result. They're more confident in their numbers than you, which allows them to bid more aggressively in Google Ads and capture more market share. And that's exactly what we set up with this client. Is we looked beyond CPA, we had our 3, 6 and 12 month LTV numbers, and we made some decisions based on that. And just so you know that this is the exact Google Ads number, and 1857 is the total there, and 83209 is the total there, and 83209 is the total there. So it's all the same numbers. I've just put them into a Google Ads sheet and then looked at them by month and then mapped out the first sale revenue, ROAS, 6 month. And here's the insight that I want to share with you is if you're always looking for the lowest CPA and always optimizing for the lowest CPA, thinking that's what's going to generate you the most profitable campaign, well, check this out. Our lowest CPA was in this month here at 33 was the lowest. But check out the first month, 6 month, and let's look at the 12-month revenue primarily, because that was the metric we were optimizing most for this client. They were very forward looking and just like have a very long-term view on their ads. They wanted to be a little bit profitable on the first sale and then maximally profitable at the 12-month mark. You might be different. You might want to be more profitable on the first sale and willing to sacrifice some profitability at the 6-month mark. This is up to you to decide how to exactly slice this, but what we were looking for was maximum profit, maximum revenue at the 12-month mark, and 33 CPA is the lowest CPA, but it's not the best 12-month revenue. Best 12-month revenue, in fact, best revenue at every month marker comes when we had a higher CPA, 38. So some people might look here and go, oh yeah, 33 CPA, that's what you want. No, it's not, because there's a trade-off between volume and CPA when it comes to Google Ads. And what we found here was that actually, if we want to maximize long-term revenue and profit, we probably actually want to be somewhere between 41 to 38 CPA, because they were the months where we actually made the most long-term revenue. And then after that is when we actually just started kicking the CPA back up again. So here you can see we tested a lower CPA, but spend dropped and revenue was less than it was here. So that's when we made the decision, okay, we want to go higher on the CPA. We want to be between 38 to 41. And then we made the decision to go up in CPA, and then you can see immediately the 12-month revenue increased as a result of that decision. So look beyond the CPA, have that longer term view, have confidence in your numbers to enable you to have that longer term view. Hey guys and girls, I've been talking today about how my team and I generated tons of new leads and revenue for a B2B e-commerce client. If you want to see if we can get you similar results, then head over to bigflare.com or use the description below this video and head over to my call booking page. And on there is my calendar where you can book a time to talk with me personally. Over at my agency, Big Flare, we are a boutique paid ads agency helping founder-driven e-commerce companies to profitably scale with paid ads. We offer Google Ads, Bing Ads, YouTube Ads, and Facebook Ads as our core services. Everyone on my team has more than 10 years experience, and cookie cutters simply do not exist at Big Flare. We do a fully custom approach for every client. We understand your true business goals, and we turn that into custom ad strategies that get you where you need to go. So if that sounds of interest and you want to find out if my team and I can help you scale, book a call with me now, and I'll look forward to seeing you on a Zoom chat really soon. All right, with that said, back to the main video. Next tip is use shared budgets and portfolios. So we used a shared budget across all our search campaigns in Google Ads. And the thing to know about this is that shared budgets just work. I remember back in the day, we used to advise people not to use shared budgets because they just didn't work for some reason. They didn't spend properly, didn't allocate budget properly. But what we're finding in 2024 and beyond is that shared budgets can work really well, and they can be paired with a portfolio target CPA bid strategy really effectively as well. So I'm going to pop a link in the description to my video about portfolio bid strategies, but essentially what you can do is group your campaigns up into a portfolio or a sort of folder, And then across multiple campaigns, you can share one budget and share one target cost per lead or target cost CPA. And this works really, really well. The grouped up data means it's easier to control everything in Google Ads, and it also really helps out the algorithm. When you group up the data into one portfolio, the algorithm just makes smarter, better decisions the whole time. So let me just show you how this looks in Google Ads. What you want to do is you want to come over here to the left-hand sidebar, and under Tools, you've got Budgets and Biddings, and there's Shared Budgets, and there is Bid Strategies, and you can set a shared budget to operate across all your campaigns, group up your campaigns together. The only time you really want to separate out different portfolios for your budgets and bid strategies is when you legit have a different goal. For example, if you have one service where you need to get leads for $30 and another service that has a completely different goal. I don't know, like maybe you're looking to book phone calls for $10 a phone call. Those are different goals, different targets. You would need different shared budgets and bid strategies for those. In this case, we just had one goal for the whole account. So that's why we grouped everything up into one goal and one portfolio. So this is where you can create portfolio bid strategies. You just click a plus button there, and then you can create a target CPA bid strategy, which is then going to operate across all the campaigns you put into that portfolio. More guidance on portfolio bid strategies, follow the link in the description below this video if you want that, but let's just stay on track for today with the overall broader strategy without getting too stuck into the finer details here. But yeah, use shared budgets and portfolios. They're good, they work, and they allow you much better, easier control of the campaign whilst also improving the algorithm's decisions, which leads to better outcomes for you, more results for you at the end of the day. Number 5, focus on search. So we just did only search campaigns for this client up until this point. We didn't do any Performance Max. Now I'm going to talk to you about Performance Max for lead gen in just a moment, but let's just dive into my simple recommended search campaign structure for lead gen like this. Now you can get more fancy depending on the specifics of your account, but as a basic structure, what you want to start with, and in fact, this was the entire structure for this particular client. You don't have to get more fancy than this, but there are some times where it's called for. But very basically, you want a brand campaign, and that's where you're going to put in your branded keywords, people looking directly for you. Product is where most of the non-brand keywords go. We call it product out of habit, really, but you could also call it service if you're more of a service-based business. But this is essentially your non-brand keyword campaign. So anything that's people looking directly for your product or service or what you're actually selling, that goes in here. DSA is dynamic search ads, and once again I'm going to pop a link in the description below. I've got another video diving more into my dynamic search ads strategy. I recommend setting up 2 dynamic search ads campaigns actually. So this is the simplified version. You actually want to set up a DSA targeted campaign where you target specific URLs on your site, and then a DSA catch-all campaign where you try and just do a blanket catch-all campaign just to grab anything you might have missed in the DSA targeting campaign. But your DSA targeting campaign is the main one to run. And then a search competitors campaign. It doesn't always work. So this one you need to test. In this particular account, it kind of worked out okay. Some accounts it doesn't work quite so well. Some accounts it works really well. So this one's on a case-by-case basis. I'd say definitely go for brand, product, and dynamic search ads. Competitors, test it if you want to. It can work. It's sometimes when it doesn't work, it tends to just be really low volume. So you can get it working by reducing the bids. The system will actually automatically reduce the bids for you to the point where one of 2 things happens. Either it kind of generates leads for you, albeit at a low volume, or maybe if it's not performing, the system's just going to bid it down to almost nothing. So worth testing out. I would say these 3 ones here are the core though, the real core of the strategy. And then competitors can work, take it or leave it. I recommend testing it usually as long as you've got the budget for additional testing. If you're super tight on budget, maybe skip the competitors and just go with these 3 guys here. So that's actually the main 5 points that I have for you today, but I just wanted to talk to you about Performance Max and whether it can work for lead gen. So in my campaign setup just now, you'll notice we didn't have Performance Max included there within the campaigns that I recommended. And there's a reason for that. I think Performance Max can work for lead gen sometimes, but there are risks. I used to say just don't do Performance Max for lead gen at all because I'd seen so many of the risky cases. There are risks where Performance Max for lead generation can push too much into the Google Display Network. The Google Display Network is kind of a bit risky for lead gen gen because there are bots on there that can kind of fake fill in your form, and these bots are set up to sort of force your campaign to spend loads of money advertising on these display network sites. But this is happening a lot less these days, so I am okay with testing Performance Max for lead generation. I'm kind of cautious with it though, which is why we didn't test it at first. We've actually just started testing it for this particular client. Early days on those tests yet, but right now my main recommended setup is to focus on search first when you're going into B2B lead generation on Google Ads. Earlier in this video, I talked about how we used portfolio bid strategies to group up our data and help the algo make smarter decisions. If you want to dive further into this key strategy and learn exactly how to set portfolio bid strategies in Google Ads for your business, I highly recommend you check out this video right up here. Portfolio bid strategies for search is something we do for almost all our clients at my agency Big Flare. It works really well, and I think you should understand how to do it properly if you too want to get awesome results from your Google Ads campaigns.